Hello and welcome to Caesar's Snack Sandwich. Today I have a really quick video for you on Silo V3. Now if you don't know what Silo V2 is or V1, it's basically an OG similar product to Morpho. So isolated lending markets where you lend your assets to people for specific collaterals in isolated markets. Now, I'm not sure which one was first. I believe Silo was before Morpho, but it doesn't really matter. Silo V3 has very significant upgrade to the system, and what it does is it reduces, or actually removes, the ability for bad debt. Bad debt is no longer a possibility on Silo V3, and I think that's a significant improvement. Now, I've read through this article in full. I was going to do a flowchart, but I don't think it's necessary. It's pretty straightforward stuff. You can read through this article to verify the things I'm saying and so forth, but it's pretty straightforward, okay? So if you come to Silo and you see V3, there are some opportunities here where you can lend your assets for specific collateral exposure, right? So people will bring these collaterals and borrow your asset and probably try to lever things up, okay? So as you can see there, it's very transparent in that sense of like what is the collateral that you're exposing yourself to. Where this kind of gets risky is where other protocols start taking advantage of these markets and not disclosing these collaterals to you. But of course, you're going to want to look at these collaterals and see what these collaterals are and what you're exposing yourself to, even more so here, okay? Now, why is that? Because there are two liquidation engines now. So there's the first one where it's the normal liquidation engine where, let's say you lend USDC and the collateral is something simple like ETH and WBTC. So you lend you lend your USDC to them. If ETH or BTC drops significantly, what's going to happen is liquidations will kick in, and people's the collateral, the ETH will be sold for USDC, and then you will get your USDC. You can claim your USDC because you are a USDC lender, right? Very straightforward. Now, there are cases where the collateral liquidity, there's not enough liquidity, or the liquidity is segregated across many chains, and it cannot be automatically liquidated through the system, through normal liquidation systems. So instead, what happens is this thing kicks in, and you are the lender. So instead of getting back more of your USDC, you'll get the collateral assets, and then you can try to sell those collateral assets on your own when you feel it's the right time to do so. So in this protocol, the actual collateral is even more important. Well, I wouldn't say more important. It's equally important, but it's significantly important because when you lend your assets, so let's say you were to lend to any of these assets. I'll just choose a random one here. So you're going to lend your ETH to High Growth ETH, AG ETH, and these PT tokens. If you were to lend your ETH to them, you might end up holding High Growth ETH, which is like Kelp DAO's ETH. And if you're holding that High Growth ETH, then you have to have an exit plan for that. You might end up, your ETH might be converted into this, and then you have to kind of wait for this High Growth ETH to recover, or you have to look for redemption system or redemption possibility. So again, you have to look at collateral. That's always the case. You want to look at this, like you want to look at the collateral. Like if you look at this USDC one here, there's like the RPL token from the USDR. It just kind of slithered in there, and and this is brand new. It's live today. So anyhow, you can kind of check. You have to, again, check the collaterals that you are exposed to and know that you might end up with that collateral. So it's pretty straightforward. You're going to like get a premium because of the liquidation, but in most cases that liquidation is a result of that token being exploited or dumped in size, and recovery might be off the table, right? However, at least you don't have to sit there with bad debt waiting for that team to hopefully come back and repay while your debt grows significantly quick because you're way up high on the hockey stick of the utilization curve. It immediately just closes that market down and allows people to exit, right? Now, there is some significant improvements or some extra opportunity here for some other assets. So here are some other assets that could be added to this system because of this unique you get the collateral instead of forcing it to liquidate. So temporarily illiquid assets. So sometimes there is no liquidity pool yet. So maybe it's like an NFT or maybe not an NFT. Maybe it's like just like a token that doesn't have liquidity yet, and the protocol is waiting for TGE or waiting for the liquidity generation event. Then these markets can be opened, and you could lend your USDC to or whatever asset they want to these people, to these collaterals, knowing what that collateral, your exit plan for that collateral. Permanently illiquid assets. So it says assets with a fundamental value but no on-chain liquidity. So maybe it's like some like tokenized equities or off-chain representations or some sort of like smart contracts or some sort of equity in something that doesn't actually have any liquidity and will never have any liquidity on Uniswap. Markets can be created for this because, again, you have to do your research and understand how will you exit that collateral if that collateral needs to be liquidated, right? Because you're going to be the holder of that collateral. And stuff like this. So it kind of talks a little bit here about how Silo wouldn't have this problem in the case of Stream Finance and Resolve. You wouldn't have these markets that are sitting there waiting for resolution. It would just be like, the market would just close and the lenders would get the collateral, and then Silo's business can just continue on forward. Okay. There is also an improvement in the risk management thing. So if you do go into these assets, you can kind of see what this protocol is rating this collateral and this market as, so you can kind of get a better look. Okay, so here I opened up this one here. It's a SIUSD versus USDC. So you're lending your USDC to this SIUSD. I don't know what this SIUSD is. You can do some more research on that, but I just want to kind of highlight the risk report here that it shows. So first of all, it shows a detailed explanation of what is Infinify's IUSD. Basically, what is that collateral? Why is it being measured as medium risk and so forth? It talks about the liquidation mechanism, so selling IUSD on an AMM or redemption. So basically what I'm saying, what would be nice is like if it listed in here all of the different dexes that are currently like listed as the possible where they will be looking to liquidate this, which would be fantastic. And maybe the TVL of those would be also a fantastic improvement here. The oracles. So what are the oracles that that collateral is using for US dollar value and so forth? You can read through this and for this. I'm not trying to assess this particular token, just show you that everything is here. Market management. So is the oracles immutable? Can they like add collateral? Collateral configuration is immutable in this case, but maybe they can add or move collateral. Can they pause LTV? Can they change all of the collateral ratios, the interest rate and stuff like that? So this is all really good, and then just a little bit of extra news and then some live reporting as well. So I find this to be very good. A lot more transparency here for this specific market. Not all of the markets have this huge deep dive risk assessment, but it allows you to at least get a better look at what you're lending to and what are the risks you're taking. I do suspect that a lot of like vault protocols will build on top of this, as long as TVL kind of gets attracted and so forth. And I think it's worth sharing, and I do think you should consider this. But as always, check your collateral, understand what the collateral is, and here, just as much as before, at least you don't have you won't have bad debt, but you will end up with some sort of collateral that maybe you don't want. So be very specific about what kind of collateral you are lending your assets to. Thank you and goodbye.